Well, good morning and welcome again to another podcast. Down to earth, but heavenly minded. I'm your host, Irv Risch. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the church and money. And the reason I picked this subject to talk to you about is because things are happening in our world that we got to be aware of. And as Christians, and as stewards of God's money, we need to be careful on our dealings with how he uses money and also on how he set his money aside to do God's work. Now, I believe that the church should be a mission oriented church, that we support missions around the world, and that we help people locally, and we are to use this money for others that really have a need. And the Bible does talk about orphans and widows and those that are not capable of taking care of themselves. Now, I'm not talking about laziness or people that just don't want to work, that are capable of working. I'm talking about those that really have a need, that are maybe for some reason or other unable to work. They might be handicapped. They might be uh, unable to work for different reasons. So we need to investigate and help those that really have a need. But the real reason I'm making this podcast is that uh, there are things happening right now. Banks are failing, and I believe that there's going to be a run on the bank soon, and it's going to cause a lot of havoc. Now, I was born at a time, it was after the Great Depression, but still I felt the ripples of that era that my parents went through, and just the way my mother did things. I'll give you an example. We bought an old Victrola. It was one of those great big pieces of furniture, and we didn't have a vehicle at that time. So we picked it up and hauled it home on a coaster wagon, my coaster wagon that I had when I was a kid. But we used to use that coaster wagon to go to the grocery store and buy groceries. Uh, my dad actually went through a strike at Allis-Chalmers. We were living in Milwaukee, and he worked in West Allis at Allis-Chalmers. That was before they closed. And what happened was they were on strike. So he took a job driving cars on and off the Milwaukee Clipper. That was a ship that went across Lake Michigan from Wisconsin to the state of Michigan. And he got to know the cooks aboard the ship, and he got supplies from them. He got some sugar and flour. And my mother used to do a lot of baking, and she would sell baked goods. But getting back to that Victrola that we picked up, it came with a bunch of old records, and they were music that my parents didn't care for. So my mother would put those old 78 records in the oven and get them soft, and then she'd bend them up like into a flower pot, and then she would paint them and sell them. anything to do to make money. Uh, and so we survived. There was, during that time, it was uh, during the war, they were rationing things. You got coupons for gas. You could only buy so much gas, and sugar was another thing that you had to have a coupon for, or a stamp, and then you could only buy so much because things were rationed because they needed it for the military. So we lived in a time when things were really hard. And right now we're going into that same type of a situation where the government actually wants to take control of the whole bank system and go to a digital currency. And I'm not talking about bitcoins or any of that stuff. I'm talking about where your money will be in a form of a digital currency. You'll use your phone to buy and sell. And if that doesn't sound like we're moving towards the mark of the beast, and maybe the whole banking system is the beast, I don't know. But I know one thing, we're going to be moving on into some pretty hard times. And I'm thinking about, as an elder of a church, the finances. We want to keep supporting missionaries. And how are we going to do that when there's no money in the bank? Or when the banks run by the government starts telling you how you can spend your money, where you can spend your money? I think the church has to be wise in what they're doing now. I personally have been buying precious metals. You buy silver and gold. And this is something that's going to be worth a lot more than what it is right now, because it's going to be a tangible currency to where you can buy things with it. Now they say you won't be able to buy or sell unless you take the mark. Well, what is this mark? Well, I'd only be guessing. But I think the fact that if you can't buy or sell, it'll have something to do with our monetary system. Right now, I heard that Australia is already gone to this. And I hear next week, here in the United States, we're supposed to start testing this system. And by July, and we may be into this system of digital currency because the dollar is failing. The dollar's not worth anything. And I believe that with the government printing all this money, trillions of dollars, they are the ones that are trying to bring it about. And not only here in the United States, but all around the world. Europe is doing it, and countries all over the globe. And we're going to go to a world monetary system to where no matter where you are, you'll be able to use the same value of currency, which will be digital. And, we're living in troubled times. We really are. I'm not sure exactly what's going on in the world, or what's going to happen, and when it's going to happen. I can only speculate, just like everybody else. But I do know that something is coming down the pike, and it's coming at a very fast rate. Now, at my age, I'm an old man. I didn't figure I'd even see this in my lifetime, and I'm seeing it. And I go back. 1948 when Israel became a nation. It tells us that this generation would not pass away till all these things came about. And I'm that generation. And I'm in my 80s. I don't know how much longer I'm going to live, but I'm in pretty good health for my age. I may last to see the collapse of the dollar and this new monetary system comes in. A lot of people have been calling it the Great Reset. I'm not sure what to call it, but if we change our whole way of doing business and buying and selling, it will be a great reset, and it'll be worldwide. Something to think about. So if you are kind of in charge of the finances of the true church, those that have put their faith and trust in the Lord Jesus Christ, and you're responsible for God's money and what you do with it and how you store it up to help with the missions around the world, you ought to be considering putting your money where it's safe. This is just kind of a warning that things are happening. And right now, there is starting to be a run on the banks. And as long as there's a run on the banks, you're going to see a lot of things happening. So that's what I have to share with you today. And just remember to keep tuning into my podcast. I remember years ago, I used to love talk radio. And I always wanted to have my own show on a talk radio. I had a chance to be a guest on talk radio, but I never really had my own talk radio show. But nowadays, with the technology that we have, it's easy to do. I started a podcast almost a year ago, and I've got a lot of podcasts out there now. And I just ask to subscribe to my channel and keep tabs on what I have to say. I just like to share things with people. And I also do audiobooks, so I got plenty of audiobooks. I got over 9,000 videos, audio files online. So if you like what I have to say or what I have to share, just subscribe and hit that like button. With that said, I'm going to end my podcast. Bye for now. God bless.